this evening. Came down with a horrible stomach bug, and I'm going to have to attend our meeting this way tonight, and I'm hopefully I can get through it.
Well, I appreciate you not sharing the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I have just a couple quick things, and then and then we can introduce Larry. Two things. Well, the first one was I apologize for not being there in person. The second one is that we all took the conversation last time around the timing of the meetings and each individual agenda item seriously last time, and Sheila and I talked about the fact that I think what we can do, and I mentioned this to the mayor too, is we're going to be watching the clock a little more carefully. And when we get toward the end of the amount of time that we've allocated each item, we'll make a comment, something like, we're reaching the end of the time allocated to this topic, and you can either decide as a group to continue to finish the conversation, or we can calendar it for an upcoming board meeting. And I think we would invite all of you to participate in that exercise. If you think we're over time and one of us hasn't said anything, I think it'd probably be a good idea for somebody to say something. The other thing associated with that is we are trying to be a little bit more careful about understanding exactly how much time to allocate on the agenda. We always talk about it, but sometimes we just don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot as to how much time somebody's going to need. So with that, unless there's some conversation about that, I would introduce Larry Stewart.
Sounds like a plan. We'll go ahead and get Larry up here, and anyone else that would like to join him up at the front is more than welcome.
You want to come hang with me?
They're supporting you just from far, far back.
As far back as possible, right? How we doing? Good evening. Appreciate your guys' time. I know that you guys are curious what we're doing, as obviously at the chamber. And I'm excited to kind of share some stuff with you guys. So, it's been a long year, to be honest with you. So, about a year ago, I was asked to come back on the board for the chamber. And so, first meeting in January, I got voted to be the chair. It was like first meeting on, like, you should be chair. And so it's been a whirlwind, and luckily we've got a great board. So I sent you guys some stuff in your packet. I don't know if you had a chance to have that handy. So I wanted to kind of give you a list of our board members so you kind of see who's kind of serving this board. Because honestly, the changes we've been able to make in the last year, the verbiage we've kind of used is we basically kind of burnt the place down and started over, to be honest. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so luckily we got a good board that's been very supportive, working hard to get through a lot of this. So back there behind me, obviously I got Paige, who's our vice chair, Paige Hatterley, which is great. And then Lindsay Ellsworth, who's our secretary. And then I would like to introduce you to our new employee, Elise Leisner. So I told her I was going to butcher this. Elise, we've hired her on as a chamber coordinator, which is kind of our philosophy of in between an admin and a director. We give her the opportunity to kind of learn without throwing her completely to the wolves, and allow her to kind of grow. And it's something where I'm still having a pretty hands-on role with the chamber as well. So we went from our last director, which was Cassidy. She was a contractor. We had about she came on, she worked for us about 6-7 months, but we had about a 60-day window where we didn't have anybody. So I got to answer the phones, and I got to return the emails and figure out how to sign people up and all the other fun stuff. So it was actually probably good to learn that kind of stuff because it helps get the hands-on approach. So I just kind of want to give you guys that. So one of the things we started doing last year, and I want to make sure you guys kind of are aware of this and obviously have a personal invite from me. One of the first things we started doing was, we were a chamber of 3 towns, right? Silt, Rifle, and Parachute. And so one of the things we started doing was moving our meetings around every month. And so we've had this week will be, I believe, our third or fourth board meeting in Silt, and we've been doing them at the library right next door because they give you early access, which is great, and it's a really nice facility. So we do these board meetings once a month, and we're trying to move them around within the town so that obviously the town officials can show up as well as the local businesses and stuff like that. And so that's something, like I said, I know you guys would love to know more what's happening, and we do send an invite with the agendas to Jeff every month, so he's aware of kind of what's going on. I know with the water plant, he said he's been a little bit preoccupied, but would love to get you guys if you ever want to come in. One of the things we have that has been kind of helpful with like town of Rifle or the city of Rifle, Clint Hotstetler, before becoming an official board member, was kind of a city representative that would come to the meetings, understand what's happening. And then we had a board seat open. He wanted to join the board because, just like you guys, he wanted to see some change. And so Clint's played a big role in helping us kind of rewrite a lot of this stuff and get some things going. So again, Thursday, 8:30 a.m. we'll be at the library, or Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. at the library. If you guys want to come to a board meeting, that'd be great. So one of the things we did, I know I watched I watch all your guys' town meetings, by the way, because as you guys might know, I live here. I watch Rifles too, but one of the things that came up is, we're trying to, one of the things that I think Alicia said is we're trying to get away from events. It's not that we're trying to get away from events. We want to stick with our core events. We're just trying not to run 2-3 events a week like the old days of chambers. And so, on a staff of 1 to 1.5 employees on a good day, it's hard to do, 2-3 events a week. What we tried to do is redefine ourselves. What's a chamber today? And so we did some strategic planning last year in January when this all started. And so we decided we want to really be a champion for our businesses and do less of the events. So hometown holidays, you guys do a great event, obviously, with the Christmas lighting, which even heard some compliments on today. We used to run that for Rifle, and I don't know how we started running that for Rifle, because honestly, I said to the board, if we don't run this for Silt and we don't run this for Parachute, why are we running it for Rifle? And so the city wanted to take it over, so we let the city of Rifle run with that and do it. And we can help promote the event and do some stuff there, but trying to coordinate an event like that, it's a big thing. So we wanted to be more there for our small businesses, and how do we, like I said, how do we help grow them, and how do we help promote their businesses? And that's really what we're trying to champion forward into 2024. So you'll see our membership levels. We tweak some stuff up. I'm not here to ask you guys for money today. I know a lot of these meetings you have that. Really, what I just want is your continued support. If you could give us updates on what's happening in town through meetings, or even if Jeff sends an email, we can read that to kind of our board and let everybody know. I try to stay up on it as much as I can, but I don't think P&Z's recorded here as it is in Rifle. So I don't think I get a chance to keep up on what's happening on the P&Z side of things. But I think it'd be good, like I said, to have that piece. So, what's to happen in 2024? What our goal is really to, we're going back through every membership level and making sure people understand what they're getting for their bang for their buck. Because like you, many businesses have came to us and they said, hey, you want my money, what do I get? And that was the problem. We had great words on the paper. And so one of the things we try to do is revisit these and really put the stuff that we can do. We're running some good workshops. We had one recently through our committee called HILL, which is Hispanics in Local Leadership. We've got about 7 or 8 members on HILL that do a great job for us. And what HILL's they've been able to do, they ran one recently on how to start a small business, and they had almost 60 attendees. And they ran that at the Rifle Library. So pretty impressive when you think of that. And that was a free event. They held childcare because, of course, parents, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, got to find somewhere to put their kids so they can attend. And so it was a really good, well-attended event. So workshops is a big part of what we're trying to do into 2024 and beyond for our small businesses. And the one thing I've been saying a lot is one of our goals is really to, connect people to people. So fortunately, being in banking, I have a lot of connections from industry to nonprofits that are looking to do some startup funding where the bank's maybe not ready to do that today, where the market is. So I've been able to connect some of those. I had one just recently that approached me for a small business loan. They didn't even have a balance sheet. They didn't have a P&L. They didn't even know what those were. So that goes to connecting them to an accountant. It goes to connecting them to this Colorado Enterprise Fund and letting them help them with bank statements, just figure out if they can get them a loan for what they need. And so you have something like that, and I think that's where we can be a real big advocate for our towns and our city, to to try to be able to help paint people in the right direction. If someone wants to open a business in Silt, how do they do that, right? Some of it starts with funding, and so that's where we can help be a big part of that. So we recently, about 3 months ago, moved into the co-work space in Rifle. I know Derek and I had some conversations last year, and I think at some point you guys would love to see a co-work space. I think at some point if you can make that happen, which would be great. And one of our goals is we're going to start also kind of being in the Parachute co-work space as well, just being visible, moving around at that point. But why the co-work space? That's where small business originates. And so one of our goals is to bring those resources I'm talking about, like Colorado Enterprise Fund or B-Side Capital, some of those nonprofits that are helping small businesses, and have them come in and try to be a small business resource center. So we've been fortunate. You guys are familiar, obviously, with the partnership, as Alicia calls it. We've been trying to partner with them to try to help out and grow that while they're doing the economic development side and trying to bring the small businesses here. Our job is to support them. Right, as the chamber, support them, promote them, and then help them drive people into their business. So, long-winded story. That's kind of what we're trying to do. It's a year's worth of, in 10 minutes, I think, or so.
Yeah.
But I know you guys got some questions, so I'm kind of here to answer those for you as well.
Anyone want to go first, or I've got?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Actually, I'd really like to hear from your presentation that you guys are maybe not focusing on running events as much and concentrating on small businesses. I grew up in the Valley, Glenwood Chamber of Commerce. It was like that was, and I said at the last meeting that we talked about this, that it was the older businesses in town were kind of mentoring the newer, younger businesses, and that's kind of how it worked. But then the chambers in the whole Valley seemed to move more towards what events can we do to make a name for ourselves, and I think that's part of where we lost a connection. Was the chamber went to go do events, they didn't help with the Silt events, and it's like, so what are we actually getting at this time? So
Yeah.
the focus on the small business is what I want to see the chamber do, because that's what we are in this town is small businesses. So
Absolutely.
so yeah, I like hearing that that's kind of the
And-
point you're focusing on.
And your mentorship, the Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, they used to, they have one office, I think, that focuses on 14 counties. And so you have one lady that's trying to serve the 14 counties worth of people, which is crazy. And so to your point, we have, counting is something we hear a lot of, especially in the Hispanic market. They don't understand the accounting side. And so we have some good accountants, like people like Ed Weiss, who's retired and still spend 6 months a year here. We're trying to figure out, how do we use Ed? How do we get Ed to volunteer some hours and do some stuff like that to give them some advice? So we're trying to bring that local mentorship, as you said. I think that's a great way to look at it and do that. But and that's been with the help of people like Michael Langhorn with the RREDC, because Michael's, he's been playing a big role in that, and he really wants to see for the first time in a long time, you have a lot of these organizations that are working together. The chamber's working closely with the RREDC. We're working closely with the Downtown Development Authority. We're trying to work very closely with the towns in general. And so you guys, I think it's nice. The partnership again has been a good thing. It's still up. There's still a lot to to be developed there. I know there's some big goals, but we want to be a partner in that and see how we can help. So I think that part makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I'm not a techie guy or social media too much, but can you explain to me what this means? It's like 5 email, text blast, and social media. What does that really mean? I mean, 5, if you belong to that, what does that mean, I guess?
So right now it's only through email. We don't have the text set up yet, but we want to be able to, if you want to promote your business and you want us to email a flyer out for your event, we'll send it out to our contact list, which is upwards of 2,000 contacts, and promote your event out. And so, if you want to make sure, for example, the lighting celebration, if that's something, you're like, hey, can you put this out to all your people? I heard you guys had a great attendance, I think over 500 people. So not that you needed more people here, but you definitely got your bang for your buck. I just heard tonight you guys had some singers that people were very complimentary of. So, but that's what we would do in that situation, is we'd be able to promote an event or your business or a promotion you're doing by sending out an email blast to the communication.
Oh, okay.
Good question, though. I like how they're saving Derek for last.
And now, I was looking at Derek. I was hoping he'd go first.
Bullseye behind me?
Yeah, you can go first if you want, Derek.
No, please, go ahead, Chris.
No, I guess When you're saying you're going to help promote the businesses, what exactly does that entail? I mean,
Yeah, so good question. I mean, a lot of it's depending. I mean, one of the things that Glenwood does is they partner with a local video company. They'll help provide like for $300 you can get a video about your business. I know you guys have been doing some of that with Align Multimedia. I saw the one you did for what is it, Wild Roots, I believe. Great video. We want to be able to help promote people if they need some of that. Maybe we don't have that set up yet, but I think we can find some of these small businesses because Align had a lot of people that left them and went independent and they're working out of the co-work, and we could partner with someone like that. But it really depends on what they need. It's kind of singletary to that. If they need help driving people in their business, well, how do we do that, right? So we have this chamber card we're talking about doing where it's going to be out in early 2024, where think of like the gym membership, the little key card you have on your keychain. It'll have a QR code. You scan the QR code and it'll tell you like current chamber discounts. So we're doing it that way so that way we can update the list, and we're not doing like a Bears card where once you print it and that business goes out of business and now it's kind of useless. So we're trying to promote that, and so that we can help drive people to their business. So we'll give every business an opportunity to put maybe it's a discount, like if it's Burning Mountain Pizza, like, hey, buy one get one half off or something like that. It's really I think it's more specialized to each business because a contractor may need something different than a restaurant. So we have a job page that's been underutilized. So we have a now hiring or like open jobs page on our website that no one's ever utilized. And so we're figuring out, well, this is interesting. How are we not promoting this? So you can submit a job if you're hiring for it, and then we can share that and promote those jobs as well. So I think we're seeing less of that today than we did a while back, but there's still an opportunity that we should be able to help our small business with whatever their need is.
and that would, I guess, translate over to nonprofits as well. Or is there a little bit of difference there?
No, I think it works the same. I mean, most of them, they run events, like for example, unfortunately, if you guys don't know, I sit on 10 boards. So it's, I'm running a murder mystery dinner for the Rifle Police Foundation and the Rifle High School Drama Club at the end of the month. So that's an event that, if they're part of it, we could send that event out and promote that event. And so we do have an events page on our website too. And this is one of the big things. I want to figure out, how do we become the communicator for events? And so you hear this a lot, especially in Rifle. Someone's like, there's no central place to find out where everything is. We have this awesome calendar where anybody in the community can submit an event. We get to review it before we accept it. So that way, if they're not trying to promote some spam or something crazy, so we can promote that. We put that event on our calendar, and I would love to see us become that central place where the community's putting their events. So that way, if you know what's happening in Silt, Rifle, and Parachute all in one go.
And I guess, how do you guys go about getting the word out that you exist and you're available to help all of these businesses?
Yeah, good question. So what we're starting with right now, I mean, this is really on the ground. We're hitting the ground running. Elise has been with us now for 2 weeks. One of the things we're doing is everybody that's been a member previously, or is a current member, or what we call a drop member in our system, we're reaching out to everybody individually, and we're talking to them. We want to share this list with them and say, like, hey, you've been a member or your membership's past due. We don't care what happened in the past. We want to make sure you're current and get you up, and we're not trying to collect on past dues. We just want to say, hey, do you want to be a member? And here's what we can offer you. And so it's a really hands-on approach. We're not just going to send everybody out invoices like used to happen in the past, and people go, oh, I got this invoice, but I haven't heard from them in a year since I got the last invoice. So we're really trying to take that hands-on approach right now, and that's Elise can't do that by herself. So the board's stepping in and have to make these calls as well. So when I say hands-on, it's a true, the 9 board members, including myself and Elise, we're going to be making a lot of calls here in the next 60 days.
Larry, nice to see you. Do they have any kind of like questionnaire that you guys would have to reach out to these customers or to these members, I would say, to kind of offer some guideline of what you guys can offer in liaison to what they need? Would you guys have like a questionnaire just to be more effective?
I like that. We have an intake form is what we call it, kind of like a sign-up form. But I think we could add some questions on there, like what do you need, and some of those leading questions. So I like that idea. That's something, honestly, I haven't thought of. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Quick question, is this workshop a different thing than the meeting? It says on your workshop, what does that mean? Like, here it says like you get a workshop.
Oh, the workshop is like the classes. So our goal is to host mini classes. Let me phrase that. Our goal is to partner with groups. We don't want to be the one that's running 17 workshops a month or anything. Again, there's a lot of organizations that want to do different things. I have a lot of friends that are in the mortgage business. They're slow right now. So they want to host classes like, how to repair your credit, how to buy your first home, stuff like that. We want to be able to partner with them and add that workshop to our kind of repertoire and help promote that. And so if they're with a workshop, you would get that. And that's the one thing I realized on the sheet that we got to define. So it says like workshop. It's like, what is that? So we got to add a little more wording to that.
Yeah.
The goal is to give them a workshop for free, and then hopefully they'll attend some other ones. But so we got those coming on the hillside, on the Hispanic side, and then we'll have some obviously for the English speaking folks too. So.
So hearing you talk, it's a lot of these programs are hopeful. It's like they're not implemented as of yet. How far along are you on these programs that you can actually offer today?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So our goal is that we're rolling everything out, and we're hoping to have a schedule of events and some workshops scheduled for the first quarter. I'm fortunate because I work with a lot of different groups that are all trying to do a lot of stuff. The library puts on some great programs. There's groups like Small Business Minority that does a lot of workshops. So really, it's just a matter of coordinating some events. Like the Colorado Enterprise Fund, to get those guys coming from Denver. They think driving 70 in the winter times, unheard of. But if you're like us, you go over there occasionally. It's not so bad. You just drive slow. So it's a lot of it's coordinating the events and trying to organize that. But I really feel that we're on the verge of it. To put it in perspective, you have a strategic planning session, right? And so you touch on it at your board meetings and stuff like that. But we've kind of added in quarterly planning sessions so we can continue to make sure stuff doesn't lose focus. So the board gets together for somewhere between 2 to 4 hours once a quarter, just to make sure we're staying focused on what we need. We have some big goals for 2024. One of the things we need to do is we need to revive the ambassador program, and so that's something that is people that can help champion our businesses and attend grand openings and ribbon cuttings and stuff like that. So there's a lot of work still to do. I'm not going to tell you that everything's done, because that would be lying to you. And that's the problem with what we've had in previous leadership. I think we've came in here and we've told some tales, and that's not my goal for you guys. This has been a working board, and even when we lost a director, we didn't stop moving forward. And I think that spoke volumes to the board we have. So there was a lot of concerns when we lost our director that, okay, hey, we're going to move backwards. And no, we're going to keep chunking forward. We had to figure it out, and that's what a good board does.
And I have I don't know if it's a question, but I'm on the Silt Historical Board too. So typically we, on the membership levels, we get the 250 partner. So we do that, and then in our discussions, we get a lot of members at the park going, well, what do we get for that 250?
Yeah.
Because, we don't have a whole lot of money.
Sure.
So people are like, well, then they'll read down this list going, well, online job posting. It's like, okay, we're all volunteers.
Right.
So, so there's a lot of things on this. Sure, yeah, we can read the monthly newsletter or get, the email and everything. But from our perspective, and I understand it isn't a one-way street, we need to reach out to you guys as well. But from a lot of our members' perspectives, we're not getting anything for our 250. And we have this discussion every year when we renew, where everybody's like, well, let's not do it. That's $250 that we're not really seeing. And I'm always there, even though I kind of, hopefully it'll change, but I kind of have a negative opinion of the chamber right now. But I'm always the one going, well, we have to be a part of it. We have to be a part of it, just so because, it's all part of the community and everything. So.
No, I think that's a valid point, and maybe there needs to be a lower nonprofit level. That's a great point. you're not the only nonprofit like that. Most nonprofits are working off of full volunteers, so some of this stuff wouldn't apply. But I think it's more or less, like you said, trying to stay engaged. For you guys that don't know, our chamber, especially here, is funded 100% through memberships. So one of the reasons why I came back on the board was that I was the largest contributing member. I mean, the last 2 years, the bank's contributed $12,500. So as the largest contributing member, I wanted to see it succeed. I didn't want to see it fail. And so, to your point, I mean that's a really good point. I mean, why would you join if it's $250 if you're not getting it? We hear that a lot. Some people want to say, "Hey, we want to join because it's the chamber." But at the end of the day, I want people to feel like they're getting value and they're seeing what we're doing. We're helping promote them and their events. So, I mean, that's where I know you guys do some different events, and the Historical Society puts on some good stuff, and I know the bank does. We see a lot of your stuff you guys are doing, but I mean, just promoting that type of stuff would be a way we could help you. So, social media and through email blast.
All right, thank you.
Derek, you're taking it way too easy on me.
Yeah.
I know you want data.
We're aligned on a lot of this.
Yeah. Well, you and I met, and
Yeah,
we
you know this.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff sounds great. How are you going to measure your success? Talk to me about, you referenced goals a few minutes ago
Yeah.
in your quarterly meetings. How do you know when you're being successful and how much and where you need to shift resources, whether they be monetary or personnel?
That's a great question, and I think the biggest thing we can do to monitor our success is someone asks about sending a survey out now, like what do our businesses want, or what do they? I think we do that later in the year as we're progressing and make sure that people are comfortable. I'd love to, how does membership feel we're doing? Maybe that's a 6 month. We do it at the 6 month mark in 2024, and we do it at the beginning and end of the year. But I think you measure it through your existing membership. If people are paying you, and that's the other thing I think we measure it through is how many people re-up through this process. Because, if you guys are small businesses and you've been a member and you haven't got an invoice for 12 to 18 months, there's a reason. It's just, I refuse to send an invoice out until I could tell you what I could give you. So.
Thank you. In terms of the membership levels, are these prices an increase over prior prices, or are they consistent?
No, we've kind of brought them down. So
They're reduced.
I would say so. So one of the things they did was they changed benefits in early 2022, where they went to how many employees you had. And so I'll give you an example. Grand River Health or Hospital, they have, of course, a lot of employees. Well, based on that membership, they would have had to been at the $3,000 level. They've always contributed about the $1,000 to $1,500 level. And so one of the things that's important to them is to access the ski pass discounts. And so that's something that we offer, at that $1,000 level. But before we said, okay, if you want that, you got to pay $3,000. And we knew it was important to them. But instead of just figuring out a way to make it work, we decided to raise the price. So I think that when you see that type of stuff, and when I talk to some other chambers, I talked to the Glenwood Chamber, I talked to the Grand Junction Chamber, they said, look, that's an old model. That's what people did years ago. They would measure you by how many employees you had, and it's just not the right model in today's world. So that's one of the reasons why we revamped it, because again, it was 4 pages long. If you asked me what you get, I would just hand you 4 pages and hope you could find something on there you wanted.
A thrilling read, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I said words on a paper is what you get. So, I'd say it's a reduction of prices in all reality. We tried to bring it down, and there was a $3,000 level before, and the bank's always been like a cornerstone. Originally was $10,000, so we even lowered the high end down to $5,000, hoping people would just sponsor some events, attend our annual dinners, or stay the community type stuff. So we do have a date for that. So Jeff's confirmed it works for him. Hopefully it works for you too, Mayor.
But if we're not at the right level, we won't get an invite, right?
No, we'll invite you regardless. Yeah.
He's got to pay to go.
Yeah.
Double.
Hey.
Just me.
That's a fun event for affordable price. You guys did a great job last year with your Brady Bunch theme. So.
The last question, you referenced it a few minutes ago that you're talking, or you had spoken with the Grand Junction Chamber. Mm-hmm. Are you consistently communicating with a lot of the other chambers in the area? I know the CRV EDP is kind of the 30,000 foot view, and it sounds like you guys are at, give or take, 10,000, let's say.
Sure.
But a lot of the other chambers, I know within the Roaring Fork Valley at least, they're communicating nearly constantly, coordinating endeavors, dates, events, et cetera, to make sure that they're not competing for the same eyeballs and the same dollars. Is there a plan to integrate with that communication stream?
Absolutely. One of the things, like, Glenwood Chamber recently put on an event where they had Perry Will and a representative, Velasco, there. And so that was a great event. And I wish we would have known about it beforehand, and we could have kind of went in with them and partnered and promoted it to bring more people from Down Valley up to Glenwood for that. Because we don't want to go host the same event and then try to compete against it and have the same people try to come to both events. I think if we worked together on that event, we could have doubled the attendance in all reality. So that turned out, Paige and I both went to that event, and that's what we took away from that was, why can't we work together on this type of stuff? And, obviously the knowledge needs to be out there for our small businesses. How do we work together on it versus trying to compete? So collaboration is definitely something that we're seeing more of in the last year than we've seen in the 4 years I've been on the chamber.
Which is nice, right?
Absolutely.
Collaboration is better than competition, I think is the expression.
Yeah. I mean, especially in this business, we're all in it for the same reasons. So
So the last thing I have, and I know we're running short on time, so I apologize, is not a question as much as an invitation. This relates to a lot of what I do professionally, so I'd love to help out in whatever ways minorly that I can.
Sure.
So feel free to reach out. I know a lot of the stuff other members here brought up, I think we can have answers to.
yeah, I
So-
love that. I mean, I know
I'd like to stay engaged.
You're great on the data side, and I'd love to figure out how we do more of that and figure out those data points. So,
I'm here to be a nerd.
okay, perfect. Appreciate that.
And thank you for all this information. This is very helpful in seeing the pivot in the new direction for the chamber. It gives me more confidence in the direction.
And one thing I want to tell you guys, just so you're aware too, we've been working really closely with Jeff, signing some letters of support for your grants through the chamber. And so there's the I can't think of the name of it, and I know Jeff might be listening, but there's a letter in here for your guys' $900,000 grant, parks and the community park renovation project. So the bank went ahead and contributed $2,500 because that was one thing Deborah said would be a big help if she could get some money from a local business. And then they asked for a letter of support. So this is the second one I've wrote in the last couple months from the chamber to support you guys. So, and we did the farmer's market for you guys too. I know that was a big help off of Nicole's thing to run that and find some volunteers. But, whatever we can do to help, we're happy to help out. And that's more coordinating again, not just trying to be there every week and be the one person on the ground. So just know we are trying to be visible here, and I think you're going to see more of that. And, some of these sessions, a great library next door. I think we should continue to utilize it.
Yeah, I like the idea of moving the meetings through the communities. Talk about the collaboration with the events, because that way there aren't three towns having a farmer's market on the same day. I'm on the Heydays committee,
Yeah.
and that's something we've struggled with on Heydays every year is we're trying to find a weekend that's not the same as Grand Valley Days, and it's not the same as Mountain Fair. So that way there's the collaboration, so people can attend enjoy all the different events, but still, then we don't have that competition on it, because it doesn't do any good to have everybody have this events on the same weekend. So that stuff's nice. And then, the fact that you guys aren't running events for the town of Rifle or the town of, because that's not what you guys are technically in business for.
Correct.
And so it makes sense. I like hearing the pivot, some of the stuff you guys are doing.
I appreciate that.
And even seeing some tracking for the services that's being provided for each business, because I heard a lot of different things. The chamber is willing to offer educational resources, promote events, social media, email blasts. Then there is the outreach that the board members are doing, and then resources for business. It would maybe be a good idea to just have like a spreadsheet and just track what you're doing for each business. And even when you're reaching out, maybe that would be nice for us as the town to really have something in writing of the services that you guys provide. It's almost like a log.
Yeah, no, I
For
like
the
it.
people that are doing the outreach or whatever they're doing, just have one for each business, and you can do all in one spreadsheet.
Gotcha. Good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, it would be nice for us to see, okay, so here is what we've seen, not only numbers, but in just the actions that were taken and the time that was spent. It will be more material for us.
Smart goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, meetings are always second Wednesday of every month. If you guys can make it, feel free to attend. It's a public meeting. So, you guys we'd love to have you.
I got one more question.
Yes, sir.
How many members of the chamber are in Silt? Like, how many businesses here are members?
I wish I had that data off the top of my head. If I had to guess, 15,
Okay.
give or take. Christian was going to try to be here tonight, so he's been a big supporter of us. He really wanted to be part of our annual dinner last year and cater that and help us kind of revive it. And the last annual dinner we had prior to that, we brought a non-member out of Junction to cater the food, and it was terrible. And we gave Christian an award that night, and Christian's like, "That's a great award, but I'd rather be able to cater some good food to your people." So, that's something, and that was back prior to COVID. So, but I remember going to that event, and it was terrible. And so, Christian's been a big, he's been a big advocate for us, and someone that wants to see the chamber do well, and of course, promote his business as well. And we're fortunate to have someone like Christian behind us. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Yes,
Everyone that came
thank
in.
you all for being here.
Thank you all.
Represent, yeah.
We appreciate
Can I
it.
leave this letter with you guys since Jeff's not here?
Yes.
Sure.
As long as, is the check made out to me?
No check.
Check this one, all right. Awesome, thank you guys very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Jeff. Hope you feel better.
Thank you very much. So we've got Mike Sawyer on the line to talk about property tax relief, and Amy's on the line too. So we'll have a little free for all on resolution number 40 and all the things that are associated with it. So Mike, you want to get away?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And I got unmuted. Well, I don't know that this is a terribly complex topic. I mean, it certainly has been in the news and the public mind for several months now with Proposition HH that purported to, do a lot of property tax relief for certain classes of people. And then the special session that the legislature enacted or convened back in November. In essence, each year you get to set your mill levy, and there can be consequences under Tabor if you set your mill levy artificially low in order to help your citizens, but don't kind of have the formalities that it's a temporary reduction. Because that then could potentially be your base level going forward for property tax increases, and that's not the intent of what we're trying to do here. This is a temporary property tax relief. In the special session, the state implemented state level property tax relief in the form of lowering assessment percentages for residential and multifamily residential properties. We're still waiting to kind of see, I think, how that plays out, and maybe Amy has some further detail that's been sent over by DOLA. But there is going to be some reduction in property taxes already on residential property that occurs in the form of the state reduction. Even with the state reduction, my understanding is that SILT has still a net increase in property tax revenues over last year. And again, Amy can talk about that. You can choose to lower your mill levy temporarily for a year or even 2 years. We do the certification of the mill levy every year. And you could, pass along some savings to your citizens to help with the blow of the reassessment that occurred last year that will go into effect in 2024. Or you could not. The challenge with doing your mill, you want to adjust your mill levy, and until the state gives us final numbers, which I don't know if they've done or not, it's kind of hard to pinpoint and say, well, we're going to reduce, our tax burden by X number of mills in order to accommodate a $50 per household or $100 per household property tax relief. That's kind of hard to do until we have final numbers to know how that mill levy against the assessment plays out. The other thing to note is that you will get potentially some money from the state in what's called backfill. Any community that has over 15% of their budget coming from property taxes qualifies for some level of backfill money from the state. The state appropriated $45 million. That doesn't go in a state as large as Colorado too far, but there probably would be some money coming back from the state that you qualify for. I would also, I guess, just note that the property tax relief that's been given by the state, again, is targeted at residential. And, if you do an across-the-board mill levy reduction, that would be specific to all properties, including commercial properties. And, I guess you could do a more targeted mill levy reduction on just residential if that was more to your liking. But we can talk about that based upon the board's thoughts and comments. And I would turn this over to Amy to probably add a lot more value than what I've been able to tell you.
I don't know if that's true, but I can give them numbers. So in the budget is, we originally had $453,000 that we thought we would get from property tax. The county has sent us the latest numbers, and it would go down to 420,000, which is a reduction of about 32,000. We do have options with Resolution 40 that we've brought you this evening. One is to certify it at the 46 million that the county has given us at the 8.973 mills that we currently have. One is to follow the county's footsteps because they're reducing their mill levy by 0.5. If we do the same with that, it would put us down to about just a little under 400,000, which is still about 34,000 more than what we collected last year. So it's still an increase, but we would pass that on to the residents. And then we can also just wait until January and pass Resolution 40 with no mill levy certification at this moment.
And Amy, what if we did a 0.5 mil reduction, what approximately would that work out to per household or property taxpayer?
That's hard to determine. If we just divided it by the 1,200 accounts that we have, it'd be about $16. But we can't say for sure that every household's going to get that because it's based off of the value of your home. So the higher the value, the more money that you would get compared to like a condo that it's valuated at 150,000 compared to someone's home that's valued at 600,000.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think board, we're open to getting direction and answering questions that you may have. And as Amy indicated, the state did extend the deadline to certify the mill levy to January 10th. So there would be one meeting in early January where we could further discuss this if there are additional clarifications that you'd like to have between now and setting the mill levy.
So I guess I got a question for you. If we did a temporary lowering of the mill levy temporarily to put it back up, we don't need to go back to the voters. We can put it back up, right?
That is absolutely correct. You do a temporary 1-year reduction. You could even do it 2 years in a row, but so long as we're classifying it as temporary reductions for property tax relief, we don't have to go back to the voters to increase the mill levy.
Okay.
So $16 a home doesn't seem quite worth all the trouble, does it? Or am I missing something here?
Just like the ratios that Amy was saying. So if you had a property of like $200,000 and now they appreciate it at 500, then that appreciation, the percentage that they are paying is based on that appreciation. Is that correct, Amy?
It is based on the valuation of
Valuation.
their home.
So then the percentage will be different depending on how much value it has increased a home, from a home to another home. Clear?
On average, if we reduce the mill levy by 0.5%, like the county is doing, to where we're in line with what the county's doing, on average for the number of accounts that we have. But that would be for commercial accounts, for empty lots, we're just taking the total number of accounts that we have and dividing that into the reduction dollar amount that we are proposing, and that average is about $16.
And I was watching an interview with the governor about this not too long ago. And Colorado has been known for having a lower property tax rate. And he believes that this is the reason why business can just strive more people, because then he believes that the less tax that we are, collecting, the more funds they have to enterprise to invest. The logic behind that, which was interesting for me. And then at the end of the year, if we are having to refund, that means we are, charging a little bit more. So if we can bring that to a base level, I wish it would be more on a permanent basis, but I know the work that this would cause, to do something on a permanent basis and then have to bring it back to the voters to bring it, back up if needed. But if we are valuating ourselves, for property values that have increased dramatically here where we live, we've seen an increase all over the valley, and it's happening here in Silt. I am in favor of following the county's direction of decreasing it, even though it's temporary. So we would be giving our older citizens also and the opportunity to adjust. Because imagine someone with a fixed income and now their property levels are higher. Now they have this huge tax bill. So I'm in favor of, offering some kind of relief, even if it's temporary.
Amy, quick question. This lowering this mill levy, is that going to show up on the 24 or 25 tax bill?
It would be for 24, for next year.
So it would show up on our spring tax. Okay.
Yes, based on the valuations that they did in 2023. Because in 24, you're paying for your valuation
Right.
in 23, but it would be in effect next year
Okay.
for the taxes that you would pay in 2024.
And 25 would be based on the same,
Yes, 'cause they do
same
that every 2
research. But we would have the opportunity during the budget season of 24 to change that for 25.
So is it like inevitable that the increase is going to happen, right?
So the county does the home valuations every 2 years. And so they just did that in 2023. So they wouldn't do it again until 25. And when they did it in 25, that would be what you pay in 26. Right. So for the next 2 years, it would be what you're paying the same in 24 and 25, if that makes sense.
It does, Amy. And then who is it purely the municipality that dictates the rates, or who dictates the rate?
No, there are like, if you look at your property tax bill, there are numerous entities that levy a property tax. State of Colorado, Garfield County, Town of Silt, the Silt Water Conservancy District, the Colorado River Water Conservancy District,
Firehouse.
Yeah, the fire. Yeah, that's right. The fire authority. So not in Silt, but RAFTA. If you're in Rifle or Newcastle, they would be on your property tax bill. So each entity can control their own mill levy to some degree, and so the state has lowered its value. It did it in kind of a unique way that only the state could do. They changed the methodology in which they calculate how much your house is worth. They changed the percentage number. but that has a lowering effect on property taxes. The county is lowering its mill levy, and again, this discussion is whether Silt wants to follow suit.
Is the county lowering theirs just temporarily?
From what I understand, it's temporary. I can read that memo again. Give me a moment.
So my concern on this whole thing is if the state is going to potentially backfill what we're not going to tax the property for, that money's still coming from a citizen. They're not making magic money to give back to you. So if they reduce your property bill, your tax burden by $16, they're going to get $16 from you some other way to fill in the backfill.
No, you're right. Yeah, where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming from the general fund, which has property tax, sales tax, all sorts of, different revenue sources that go into the general fund.
Yeah.
So it's still coming from us.
It's the sleight of hand.
Yeah.
When government usually does a sleight of hand, they're getting way more on the other end than they are given. There's no way they're doing it out of the
Says a
goodness of
member
their
of
heart.
local government.
And we're not gonna know what that backfill number, if any, is until, toward the end of the month, I guess, or maybe even in January.
It could be as late as April under the law.
Well, that's right. That's correct.
So the other way I look at it is that $16 was, I'm going to value the median house in Silt between $350,000 and $400,000. So that's going to cost those people $16 a year more. When a house valued less than that is going to be less, and a house valued more than that is going to be more, which in a perfect world, the person that has the bigger house should pay more in property taxes. So I'm actually in favor of just leaving the valuation as is. Because the other thing that could potentially happen is in 2 years, we have another skyrocket in home values, and then your property taxes that have been low are going to jump even higher in 2 more years. This is kind of like the water bill in the town of Silt, is it never got raised at a nice smooth rate, and now it's a huge jump.
Yeah, there is that, yes.
There's so many different things on our tax bill that aren't gonna drop any. Fire department's a big mill levy. That's not gonna change. CMC, Grand River, all of those, they're not gonna drop. And you look at their big items on our taxes, so we're not really gonna gain much unless they chip in, which they're not going to, so.
Well, they can almost, because some of them are
Like
barely.
Grand River and CMC.
Well, I'm saying like the firehouses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They're barely making it.
Yep. But the fire station, I talked to them, they won't, because they just got it up. They just voted it in, and they're behind yet, so I guarantee you, they're not gonna drop a temporary, so. And they're a big one on your taxes. And so is Silt Water and some of them other ones.
So according to the county's press release, it is a temporary mill levy credit, and it would be in effect for 1 year. Their reduction. Currently, their mills is 13.655, and they're going to move it to 13.155.
Oh, okay.
And the town's is 8.973, and we have the opportunity, if you so choose, to move it down to 8.473.
Attorney Sawyer, if we didn't do it in 2024, can we do it in 2025 still?
Yes. Yep. The law allows you to enact temporary property tax reductions at any time.
And that might also put us a year closer to 2025 to see what property values are actually doing based on.
That's not a bad idea, because then we would know what this amount is.
The truth is, everything's more expensive, right? We can't artificially deflate this increase. We'd like to, right? Altruistically, we'd all, especially in lieu of the
Yeah.
water bill and other things, we'd all like to be able to save $16 somewhere else. But milk costs more, bread costs more, and I'm not sure that $16, again, averaging it out, makes a meaningful difference in people's lives versus, to the mayor's point, let's not do it for 1 or 2 or longer years, and then all of a sudden it's got to go up. and it's $150 or $200 more, and then we're held accountable for not keeping it as a regular increase.
Right.
I'm in agreement with that. I don't think we should temporarily reduce them, not for such a small value.
I mean, it's gonna be such a shock, I think. Nobody's gonna know what it is until we get the bill in spring, but I think it's gonna be a shock. With what our values went up, it's gonna be $16, ain't gonna.
Good news, you're all millionaires. Bad news, you have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Good, yeah, the
I
good
just-
news is your
yeah.
house is worth this.
Right.
Bad news is you can no longer afford your house.
Yeah.
Think about it at your second job,
Third job.
or that. No, yeah,
Well,
kidding
that-
aside, it's just not, I don't feel the value
Yeah.
is greater than the cost over the long haul. And I think the mayor is also right that we're going to see it continue to go up. We can't hide from that inevitability.
I think we look for somewhere else to save $16.
Yeah.
Per citizen.
I'm agreeing with that.
Yep.
So-
I agree. And then revisit it next year if we.
I mean,
if
yeah,
we
I mean,
need
if
to.
it's,
Sure.
if the economy is not doing well in a year and we don't think rates are gonna go up much in 2025, then maybe we do it.
Well, and that's,
Next year's gonna tell us a lot anyhow. By next fall, we're gonna know what's
well,
gonna
that
happen.
$16 goes into the general fund, right?
But
Where's that, where,
the property tax mill levy is the general fund other than, don't we have a 1% that's dedicated to roads? It's kind of segregated off.
Not for the property, that's for the sales tax.
For the
Sales
sales
tax we
tax.
have, we raised it 1%, and so we have to use that on streets, but that's still in the general fund.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
I was just saying the next thing we're talking about is needing another police officer or two. And we got to pay for that as well. And so if we start reducing property taxes, we do this temporary reduction, that doesn't help us get there. Especially with the minimal amount of effect of each household versus the overall.
Yeah, we do need to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that is the consensus of the board, then Amy, which of the resolutions, because we presented you with different options, not knowing which direction the board would want to go, but one of the options we gave you was to leave the mill levy in place as it currently stands.
Yeah, so they're all resolution 40. It's just different language in each of them. So it would be the very first one in your packet that shows what the valuation is, listing the mill levy being at 8.973. Because the valuation didn't change. It would just be how much the portion of that valuation that we're willing to collect.
All right, so when we get to that, we'll just fill in with the appropriate language in the adoption of the resolution.
Amy will
Yes.
coach us through it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. So that's not the last we'll see of Michael. I think we're going to see him a little later in the meeting on the Garney construction contract. So without further ado, we have Matt and Mike from the police department to talk a little bit about the next item in the agenda.
Okay.
Good evening.
We got Matt here. I don't know if Chief's got.
There he is.
All right.
There's big feathers.
Ma'am, gentlemen, not feeling the best of weather right now, so if I get up and leave in the middle of the presentation, I'll stay on this side of the table.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay. Fire away when ready.
Just to return to circle back to the initial budget presentation, we're aware that the priority of the town board is to get us to the police department to 24/7 coverage. In order to achieve that, we're asking for 2 additional officers to add to the staff. This is to increase response time, 2 calls around the clock. It's going to help decrease overtime costs, and on-call costs. We're looking to enhance public safety for the Silt community by adding those 2 officers. So we've got somebody on duty around the clock. We broke that down into numbers on what typical officer range would be, including adding the benefits, which is going to be about 30% of whatever that salary is. The average amount to add 1 officer is going to be about $100,000, and then to add 2 officers is going to be about approximately $215 to $220, and that's because that's factoring in having to purchase an additional vehicle. Adding 1 officer, we do have a vehicle to supply that officer, so the vehicle costs aren't included in the cost to add 1 officer. If we add 2 officers, we only need to add 1 vehicle. And so that's why it's not $100,000 for 1 officer and $200,000 for 2 officers. You've got the extra vehicle costs to add the second officer.
It was asked during the last meeting that of what we were looking at for how many calls that we do for on-call time. And by the time, toward the end of this year, we're going to be approximately 300 on-calls, 300 calls that the officers came in for being on-call.
So in terms of dollar amount, what is that?
So
Call hours.
I ran some numbers on that. If you get called out, you get paid a minimum of 1 hour. So whether it takes 5 minutes to handle or up to an hour, that gets paid at overtime. The approximate hourly rate is $50 an hour. So year to date, we have approximately 300 call outs, and that's going to be $15,000. That's if each of those call outs take an hour or less. There's numerous calls that take multiple hours. You have domestics, we've had felony menacings, burglary calls. Those calls take a lot more than just 5 minutes to handle. So it's going to be greater than $15,000 in overtime costs for just getting called out. Once we add the standby on-call pay, with it, you're going to pay a night shift officer 1 hour and the day shift officer 1 hour of standby pay. That's going to be paid at straight pay. So you're looking at 2 hours of standby pay per day times 365, and the hourly rate is, because it's straight pay, not overtime, that's approximately $34 an hour. You're looking at about $25,000 just for being on call. So total costs for having officers on call for the whole year, and estimating what the call out costs are, you're at minimum of $40,000, and that's if each of those call outs are only an hour or less, which they're not. Not all of them are. Not all of them are.
So I'm assuming 1 officer, they would cut that number in half?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. The total cost, you're looking at approximately closer to about $50,000 in on-call, standby pay, and the overtime paid. You're about $50,000, and with adding 1 officer costing $100,000, it's half of that.
And I was reading on the report, 1 of the officers are currently out, and then you guys are having to have officers on call Monday through 7 days a week from 1 to 7.
That's correct.
And I can only imagine that can cause some burnout to be on call like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, these are just financial costs. These aren't, showing the true cost to officers having to be on call. We've got some officers that don't live in Silt. They will actually stay at the police department being on call and currently not get paid for that, just in case they do get paid out or get called out, so that they can respond in an appropriate amount of time.
Okay.
And the type of year, all has a factor in this. We're coming up on the blizzard season. These guys, we all could be out on that interstate for closures for hours. Okay. Need some water?
Are you okay, Jerry?
I just followed it along.
Do you need a drink of water?
I got some here.
All right.
Oh. Excuse me a minute. I swallowed that wrong.
In summer months, everybody's out late. And call activity goes up. People are out late, weather's nice. And we have a lot of fair weather criminals. That's a perfect time to start going through cars and.
It's too cold to rob that guy.
When it's sub-zero, it's not that fun to go out, rummaging around. Type of thing. So, all the factors, the weather, the seasons, the weather.
People getting sick, being out, being injured.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I guess kind of a side question is looking right above your numbers to hire an officer. It says vehicle including upfitting. It says 20,000 per year. Is that correct? Each vehicle?
Yeah, the approximate cost to purchase the vehicle and then the upfitting, all the lights and siren and cage and radar unit, radio, all that is going to be an additional approximately 20 to 25,000
Per vehicle or per year?
per vehicle. And so that is depending on if we lease it or buy it. It's broken out and it's broken out over and paid back over a couple of years.
Okay.
Oh, I get it. The cost is annualized. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense. Yep.
Yeah.
We normally, if we can't purchase it toward the end of the year with some salary savings out of the PD budget, we will finance it, and it's usually 5 years.
How long, if we're averaging, how long does it take to hire a new police officer based on the last, let's say, few years? I know COVID was an exception, but give us a ballpark on how long it takes to get a new officer.
This is why we try to target getting a lateral officer, one that's already been through the academy and maybe has a couple of years under their belt, which Officer Farnham, who we got from Glenwood Springs Police Department, he had a couple of years on. So he was able to, aside from a modified field training program, within about a month or two, he was able to go out and be on his own. But then we've got Calvin Portwood, who will be in at 7, that you'll be able to meet tonight. He still needs to go through the academy. He'll start in January. The academy is about 3.5, 4 months. Once he gets out of the police academy, then he starts the field training program, which is another 3.5 to 4 months. So he won't be by himself until late summer of next year.
Okay, so that's onboarding in terms of the process, but in terms of like you guys post a job ad, what's the average time between beginning the process of trying to hire them and actually getting one to sign on the dotted line and say they want to be a police officer and so?
The background, from the time we find somebody, they fill out an application, we do the background investigation, they do a polygraph, all that stuff, that takes about a month to month and a half.
And then
That's if we have
getting
somebody
enough
that
applicants
is
interview,
interested and
right.
fills out an application and they pass everything.
But realistically, we're talking 3 to 4 months between posting the job ad and hopefully having someone say, yes, I'd love to work there.
It could be up to a year before you could even get an applicant. And we've gotten applicants in the past. Once you start looking into their background, they can't even carry a gun. Type thing. So it's not only finding an applicant, but good applicants that are a fit for our town.
And the reason, or the reason why I'm asking this is my suggestion was going to be for the budget, we include one officer with the understanding that if we win some form of employment lottery and find two, that we can then worry about financing it, but get one locked into the budget as it is now, knowing that there's a length of time required for hiring that's unpredictable. We know there's a longer onboarding process. Even if we did hire a second officer in April or May,
They may not start.
we may not have to think about it within this budget cycle. So why don't we just lock in for one? And again, if we win a lottery and a magical second police officer comes along,
Don't tell them no.
we can adapt and adjust the budget as needed. I feel like that that gets back to that fiscal responsibility. That's why I was asking those questions. And thank you also for providing all that background about on-call and call-out costs. I was the one who had asked for that, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I know you love spreadsheets. So that was for you.
Is the log or availability catching up out there, available officers, or is it still a big shortage yet?
It's still a nationwide
Is it?
problem. Yeah, trying to find good applicants that are qualified to be police officers.
And there's poaching going on all the time. You know, people, hey, going to other agencies, we do the same thing. Hey, you happy here? This is what we've got to offer, type of thing. We've got a small valley, and we have a small application pool. And to bring somebody in from that's not already here, with the housing the way it is, that is a huge challenge. So we really try to find locals that will fit within our town
Right.
for hiring.
Well,
We still keep our code enforcement officer for 3 years, right?
Yes.
Okay, because if we say yes, he just doesn't automatically disappear.
No, he's not ready yet.
Okay,
He's got a long ways to go for that.
gotcha.
I think I'd like to, an hour on call a day. I get 4 hours a day of being on call where I work at. That seems a little silly here. I mean, for a police officer only getting an hour. I think, maybe shoot for one officer and then discuss raising that 1 hour of on-call pay to something more to make, you know what I mean? To keep the guys that are here happy and, prevent other people poaching, other companies poaching.
And the net cost of that first new officer is only 50,000. I know you said the average is 100, but when you factor in that the savings we're gonna get from the on-call side is nearly 50,000, the net cost of new officer number one is actually only 50. So that supports your point, Sam, about let's add to that on-call pool to prevent poachers from coming along and then moving to Rifle or Glenwood or some other unpleasant place.
Well, and if we add to the on-call time, then that makes the new officer cheaper because we're saving more money.
There you go.
That's one way to look at it.
Whatever you need to tell yourself.
Add it up.
That's very creative. Clearly, you're not a CPA, but carry on.
That's the government math we were talking about earlier. We're gonna save this much by spending this much.
And I know I've told you guys this before, and I can't say it enough. The staff that you have for officers and throughout the town are amazing. I wouldn't trade one of them. Well, maybe one that's injured, but.
He looked at you, man.
He's right there, so don't say while he's in the room. Come on now.
He's not the injured one.
But they know the support they get from the town. They know the support they get from the board. And they do appreciate it. But the people that we have now are a core group that are going to go into the future with this town.
Yeah.
Where are we at on vehicles? I mean, when are we gonna have to start replacing vehicles?
We've already started that program. We were able, with some salary savings out of the PD budget this year, able to purchase one outright. We're just waiting, like everything else, waiting for equipment. That's on back order. After that, we've only got one older vehicle. We call it the Dinosaur. But it runs great, and it'll work for
In town, yeah. Okay.
what we needed to do.
Okay, I was just kind of trying to figure this in. If all of a sudden we do this, then, oh yeah, by the way, we need 3 new vehicles too, so.
Most of our vehicles are relatively low miles. It's longest miles they go, Grand Junction, Denver for training or something along those lines. But most of it's
Yeah.
to their home and patrolling around town. So it takes a while to put miles on them.
$2,500, we can get you an e-bike. Little basket on the back and,
I
Told you guys my story
you know, a
about
little
that when I
basket
lived
on the
in
back,
Boston.
get a little flip-on light like they had there, flip it on there and away you go. Get you up and down Grand.
So I would just like to,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on the fiscally responsible comment. I think it's more fiscally responsible to go ahead and put the 2 officers in the budget, just so if that opportunity does arise, the police department doesn't feel like they're going over their budget to achieve that. It's not there, but we have this opportunity, so should we jump on it? I'd rather have it in the budget so the opportunity arises.
Yeah.
They know that the board has stood behind them, given them that budget, and then they can go ahead and do.
My only concern there would be, we're also talking about increasing the on-call pay. And we know that we can adapt and adjust the budget during 2024 if needed. And again, the police officer lottery is one. That was the only reason. I'm fully in favor of 2, let me be perfectly clear. But if we want to increase the on-call pay, then we reduce it to 1 so that can happen right now. And when the unicorn second officer comes along, we can adjust the budget accordingly mid-year. Again, trying to balance those fiscal ends.
So I see that as the same thing. If we add it for 2 officers and they use it for 6 months of the year for overtime, and then the last 6 months is because they hired somebody new, it's the same.
Oh,
Those
right.
different line items budgetarily? I don't know that.
Overtime is a different line item than payroll.
But it's the same bucket.
On-call,
It is the same bucket of money, but a different line item.
Then I'm fine with it.
on-call pay is the same as overtime pay on line item, or is it just in the general budget?
It is just in the normal payroll line item. We don't have a specific line item for on-call.
Call. Yeah, so that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Budget for
I'm fine with
2,
it.
increase the on-call pay, and then if we get another officer, then we adjust for the whatever we need left over from the end of next year.
Right, we can adjust it down.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
And we did talk last meeting about adjusting the on-call rate that they get anyway. Did we not?
Yeah, it may have been the first time they're in front of us,
front of us,
but we
yeah.
have, yes.
Yeah, previously, they weren't getting an on-call stipend. So now they're going to get an on-call stipend, whether they get called out or not. And then they will be paid the moment that they respond to something.
Yeah, so we added that stipend in there that they didn't have previously anyway, yeah. So I don't know, I mean, we can still have the discussion about upping.
So their stipend was just 1 hour for being on call for their shift?
Yeah, the stipend, the time, the quantity was 1 hour.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And now it doesn't equate to an hour. It's just you're on call, you get this stipend, and then you get paid as soon as you get called. It's the same stipend that Public Works gets and Water Wastewater gets for being on call. And then you get the hours that you work.
So they don't get anything if they're not called out.
They do, they get
No, they get the
the stipend.
They get the stipend.
Get that.
Then
yeah.
there must be an hour equivalent.
What's the stipend?
It's $75. So that would be maybe 2.5 hours, depending on what their rate of pay is.
Stipend's not just one,
Yeah.
the on-call I'm used to is, it's the 4 hours of your pay.
Yeah,
stipend.
your hourly rate.
Well, the
Yeah.
town of Silt does $75 as the stipend.
One,
Yeah.
yeah.
$75, and then if you get called out, you get
Right.
paid.
We're not following what, that was incorrect. We're not following what Public Works is doing because we can't track that. We don't work the same schedule as them. So it was gonna be 1 hour, per shift. So night shift would get that 1 hour per day.
Okay.
And then day shift would then, cause the on-call the time period from 1 to 7 a.m. is divided in half. So night shift would get 1 hour of standby pay, and then the day shift officer would get 1 hour of standby pay. So it's 2 hours per day is what the standby rate would be total, the cost to the town, and then whatever, if they get a call out, then that's the overtime cost on top of that.
So that's
And
1
standby
hour
is,
Just to be on
per.
call.
is their hourly pay, correct?
Correct,
of
yeah.
the hourly pay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So,
I apologize. That's different from the last conversation that we had about it, that I was a part of.
We just can't track it that way because the officers work different schedules in Public Works. And if they take a vacation day or something in the middle of that, then we've got to find somebody else to take on-call. And so then you've got to sit there and try to divide that $75.
Between.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
right.
It's relatively new for us, so there's going to be some growing
Well, because
pains.
you guys weren't doing the on-call at all before, so.
Right.
Correct, yep.
So
Yeah.
basically, the way the on-call is working right now is it's from 1 to 7, so from 1 to 4, 1 to 4?
1 to 4,
it's-
correct.
It's the night shift is covering, and then 4 to 7 is the day shift.
Correct, yep. And they weren't being paid at all.
Yeah.
Just a whole day. Now they are.
Now they're being compensated for being ready to wake up and start their day 3 hours early, up to 3 hours early.
Exactly, yep.
Or have to stay 3 hours, or have their night interrupted, which is,
Which
That
is
makes
happening
sense.
frequently. It's up
Yes,
300.
Yep, it is, yeah.
yeah, and it makes sense to
No.
do that, to split that like that.
Do we want to, or do we want to discuss increasing that amount? Again, it's about
I think
opportunity.
I think we've got some details to work out amongst all of us. I think it sounds like we have a pretty good idea what the board is in favor of, and I think we can sit down and work through the details and let you know how it turns out. But I don't think we need to do the details in a board meeting.
I agree with that, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds
That
good.
kind of goes back to we give you guys ideas of what we think, and you guys figure out how to make it work.
Figure out how to make it work, yeah.
And
Yeah. So we're in favor
Yeah.
of trying to
Maybe
go
a
two
great
officers.
conversation.
Well, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
when you guys were first in front of us, I said I'd be in favor of one officer and maybe hold off and wait and see on the second officer, and I'm still of that opinion. So.
I'm on 2 officers to budget for 2.
And I agree with, it's having the budget for 2 officers in there, and then the money's gonna be used for overtime and stuff if we don't have the second officer, so that they're covered on it. That's fine, or like, I think the trustee Hanrahan's thing is basically budget for 1, and then with them knowing full well that we have no problem doing a supplemental for the second as soon as it's available, but just not having it in there. But I think having it in there right away from the get-go, it just makes it easier for them to use it, and then we'll just use those salary savings to buy a police car or something.
I mean, in the real world, we probably wouldn't get a second one till middle of next year anyhow. I mean,
Most likely.
if you started tomorrow, it'd be
Yeah, it's wishful thinking, like if
wishful
we win the
thinking,
lottery.
so
Yeah.
I'd rather be in there. If we don't even, max would probably even be a half a year, we'd only need it.
Sounds good.
You guys have what, 4 new Durangos?
We have,
4
yeah, I
yes.
believe 4, yep.
So do we need to make a final decision on 1 versus 2?
Yeah, they'll come back to us with some final.
Will we have to approve the budget tonight?
Yeah, we have to approve the budget
the budget
tonight,
needs
so
to
yeah,
be
approved. Oh, that way,
we'll
that
come back
part,
to
Right,
it, yeah.
that's what we're talking about, is a budgetary change.
Yeah.
So we do need to decide.
Right, I think the idea would be that you would, during the budget item in the agenda coming up, you would make a decision then as to whether you wanted Amy to adjust the budget by 1 or 2 officers.
That'd be a resolution
Then vote on it.
40, wouldn't it? Yep.
That'd be another part of 40.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we only have about 6 minutes left, but is the flock camera system in the budget at this time?
It's not.
It is not.
No.
Okay.
We wanted to be,
I recall that we made the decision to leave that out and to bring Flock back either next month or sometime in the early part of the year have a more robust conversation about that.
Okay, yeah, I was just wanting to see if it was in there or not in case we went ahead with it, so.
It's not like the police would lose access to it right away until we decide to join, or?
We will. January 1st, we will lose access to it.
Okay, yeah, because I understand the concerns around it. I don't think we're quite where the concerns that were addressed. It seems to be very useful for the police, and they've actually used it to find cars that were robbed. Like, I'm not terribly concerned that some agency is going to get in there and start doing things that you're not supposed to. I trust also in the police department, and how you guys interact with one another and how that information is being used. So I hoped that we could allow the police to have the resources that they need. And it seems to me that that's something that it's useful for you guys and would potentially be useful for the citizens that have property, cars stolen, and would help you guys serve the community better. But I don't know if anyone shares that thought with me. So if you guys lose it, so as soon as we do decide to regain that, then how quickly it can get reestablished?
If it's approved at a later time, I think we could have access to the dashboard itself like we do now, pretty quick. As far as adding the cameras, that's going to be an installation process. I don't know what the time frame is on that, but it's not something we currently have now anyways. We have access to the flock cameras that are currently operational. And so when we do lose access in January, whenever it gets approved down the road, it would be a matter of them pretty much just flipping a switch and giving us access again.
Do you feel like you're losing a big resource as far as your investigations are happening right now, that's going to make a big difference for you guys?
Flock is a great tool for recovering stolen vehicles and catching suspects live in those vehicles. And they work for like Amber Alerts and stuff too. It is a great tool to have. That's why Glenwood has it. That's why the sheriff's office is adding flock cameras across the county, because it's a great tool for solving crime.
Yeah, I encourage each and every one of you to come and do a ride along with us. If you don't have time for a ride along, come up to my office. LT will be there, and we can explain in depth because we don't have the time, on how operations work and the different steps that it takes. It's not like it's instantaneous. We see this, there's checks and checks, and there's more checks to make sure that we do have the right person. Whether it's somebody we contact with a warrant on the street or a stolen vehicle. There's multiple other things that go on behind the scenes that most people don't know unless you're in law enforcement. And I strongly encourage you guys to come out and do a ride along with us, or come up and sit in the office and we'll walk you through each step as it happens in the real world. I know there's people watch TV shows and hear the rumors and the grumblings, and 99.9% of the time, even cops and stuff where they showboat for the cameras, it's not the way the real world works. And I'd be more than happy to sit down and have lengthy conversation to answer any questions you may have on procedures and that type of thing. And Flock is a part of it. So, once again, I truly encourage, we could sit down and have a coffee, and we could go through this too. That's my choice. But I encourage you, each and every one of you, if you've got any questions or any inklings, please, let's set up a time, let's talk.
Okay. I hope those of us that are concerned take that invitation
Okay.
and get our questions answered, so. Okay. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks a lot.
guys. We greatly appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are we gonna take a break before the
We'll
regular?
take a 2-minute recess, even though, even though the computer